Good evening, everybody. Welcome to ERL Tier 1 tonight. We are back with round number 8, which takes place in Silverstone, of course, for this exciting, hopefully, well, evening we've got for you once more. And last week, obviously, well, last week was a pretty decent race, actually, considering the circuit. Spain, Catalonia, probably not the best circuit when it comes to racing opportunities overall, but we had some fairly decent races both in Tier 1 and Tier 2 overall, with Appledorn winning. A bit to probably his surprise, a bit to everyone's surprise, after Abegduri had the perfect opportunity to extend his championship lead, but overtook the safety car, and in doing so, consequentially cost himself the race win and a decent points haul. And also Stewart also did the exact same, and he could have probably won the race last time out as well. And in the end, yeah, as I say, did the exact same as Arbeiduri and cost himself a decent points haul and a lot of points in the championship. I'm pretty sure it was Stewart. It was someone that actually... No, it might not have been Stewart. It weren't Stewart, actually. My apologies to Stewart. It was, sorry, Dandan. It was actually Dandan, who I believe it was that did that as well. So, yeah, them two, obviously, well, sort of, kind of imploded a little bit, like the Titan submarine, or submersible. Fortunately for both Dandan and for Arbeiduri, or Begduri, obviously they did not suffer any fatal injuries on that day. But Top Car Flogger has gone quickest overall, and Neil quickly replaces that with a 26.6. In terms of the championship, I'll quickly go through, because obviously the championship order will go through the top 5, as this is where things are, well, top 6 actually, as things are pretty closely heated there. So Appledorn currently is your championship leader after last time out. He has jumped to the top of the table. He was previously on 131, now on 162 points, and has got a 11-point lead over Stewart in second, who is up from, I believe it's fourth up now into second, so he's gained 2 positions. And it's Arbeiduri and Dandan both going down the championship order, remaining on the same totals as they had last time out. Now, Neil, he's up into the top 5 now on 105 points, just a point clear of Top Car Flogger, who's on 104. So, Alfa Romeo, after the last race, have extended their championship lead to almost about, well, just over 20 points, 24, 25 points, something like this. And Red Bull come P2, then on 196, followed by Mercedes on 182. Aston Martin are in fourth, then with 175, and McLaren are in fifth with 171. Quite frankly, it's still a very, very closely contested championship, especially between the top 2 in particular. But really, any team, probably even down to Ferrari, I would say, have a potential of getting into the championship fight, depending on results, of course, and what results those teams pick up. So Appledorn and Charlie Harris have retired. I think we might be restarting the session. It does look like we are, and that is a great shame because, well, Charlie Harris and Appledorn were on pole. So, yeah, we are restarting by the looks of it. I think, if someone can just double let me know in the chat, that would be great. I'm just going to quickly check Discord just to make sure what's going on. So, yeah, we are restarting, by the looks of it. So I imagine we'll probably have a similar qualifying. I imagine we won't have a shorter qualifying because of that. And ultimately, hopefully we do not have to restart the stream. But if we do, we do. We'll be as quick as possible in restarting the stream. So we have rejoined nicely, and that was pretty smooth. So should hopefully be readying up soon, which once to do, then yep. So I believe we are going to be getting back underway and qualifying once again, very very shortly, as I believe everyone has readied up, or have they not? Not entirely sure. Nope, about to ready up now. So we are going to be qualifying once again. Obviously, short qualifying it will be. So drivers will have effectively a fresh start of 18 minutes to come their way, and well, every time that drivers did set, obviously are now completely irrelevant. So, unfortunately, Appledorm's qualifying is going to be, of course, or Appledorm's qualifying lap, sorry, is going to be obviously irrelevant now from what he's done. Even though it's not really too irrelevant because he will still have a bit of a feel for what that setup was like, and I suppose, if anything, he might have learned a few tricks to maybe tame that setup more, or maybe you will opt to use a different setup to find a bit more speed, I suppose, out there. Because in theory, I suppose if you weren't happy with your setup and you got multiple setups, you could do that in this sort of circumstances, I suppose.
Verstappen became the youngest winner of a GP at just 18 years and 228 days old when he won the 2016 Spanish GP. Coincidentally, he pushed Sebastian Vettel off the top of that record, who came second place in that same race.
So, we're waiting for everyone to get back out there and onto the track. Just gonna make sure everything had before was up. So we'll just go for the best lap time so we can see what drivers are doing. So, who is first now? I believe it's one of the Mercedes, and in fact, nope, it's actually Charlie Harris. In fact, no, it's not Charlie Harris. I think it's Top Car Vlogger. Yeah, it's Top Car Vlogger. So, Top Car is going to be the first driver out onto the track. And once again, we go back to where we were at the start of qualifying a few moments ago. So, drivers will have a bit of a better feel for what their car is going to be doing tonight or this evening. And as I say, drivers, who have sort of done a lap, sort of know where, their pace is at, might opt to do something a bit different now because of that. So I'm thinking the likes of Appledorm, who did qualify pole, or was on provisional pole, but for him, not really sure what he will do in this qualifying, whether or not he will try to save his set of tyres even, because I suppose psychologically he knows, that his pace is there, if he can get already into the front, and that is someone off. I believe that could be Charlie Harris. He's going for a very extreme warm-up lap there, not the ideal warming up of tyres going onto the grass. That's only going to make them dirty. But anyway, here comes then Top Car Vlogger, who currently sits P6, sorry, in the standings. Then, so into turn one we go, and we hit then turn two, and then into effectively this is I think 3, then through 4, which is pretty much a flat corner, non-existent. Open up the DRS and down, then I believe this is the Wellington Straight, and into Luffield. Then we go, and Luffield is basically this one big section of corner here, and at the exit of Luffield takes a very nice line through there, keeps it close to the inside. Some drivers like to V that corner off a bit more, but nonetheless into the International Pit Straight, then into Copse, and then into the Beckett's complex. Now, not sure which one of these is Chapel or Vale, but one of them is, I believe. Then down the Hangar Straight, as we will head now towards Stowe, and into Stowe, and I believe the final couple of corners is Club Corner or something, and I think it's Farm Corner is at turn 1, so not really sure what the final corner is. In fact, that might have been Vale, then Club, because first corner I'm pretty sure was Abbey or something, and so 27, but Charlie immediately beats it. So actually Charlie's warm-up technique, clearly going on the grass, has helped him, giving him maybe the extra grip he needs. Maybe we'll call that the grass hack, ultimately, because that obviously sees him go to the top of the timings. Right, let's see what Appledorm is doing and see if he can maybe beat that 26.2. Obviously, was your provisional pole sitter in the last qualifying session, but through Cops he goes, gets the car really turned in. Obviously, Red Bull have announced their car launch day today, which will be the 15th of February, in case anyone's wondering. Obviously, we've got Mercedes as well and other teams going to be launching earlier, so they're not going to be the first Red Bull to launch their car. However, I don't think they were the first last year, but nonetheless, what is Appledorm doing, who obviously is a Dutch driver like his counterpart Max Verstappen, but is he going to win the championship like Max Verstappen? Well, that's remaining to be found out, but does go once again onto provisional pole, and that is going to be then provisional pole by just under a tenth of a second for Max Verstappen, for Appledorm. I am getting confused between the two. Nonetheless, Arbegduri then, so he obviously probably should have won the last race, in truth. Probably should have extended his championship lead. I can imagine he was very disappointed with the fact of what happened, but, you know, sometimes those, well, in the end, I suppose it was his mistake, really, and you can't really blame anyone else or any other thing. You know, Arbegduri, passed the safety car illegally and ultimately paid the price, which was disqualification, and that's going to obviously see him drop off the back, drop off the championship lead, but nonetheless, he is capable of regaining that championship lead back, I believe. So these are probably the three drivers we're just going to watch, because everyone else is either on an in-lap or, Robbo and Dan are all on outlaps at the moment. So, yep, pretty much these are the three we probably have to watch at the moment. Unless Iron Kid is doing something. Is Iron Kid coming through the final couple corners? In fact, he might be. So he's 41 seconds down, and he's going to go for it again. So let's see what Iron Kid can do. Not sure if he's on a new set of tyres. I don't think he is. So this would be purely a second run on those used sets of, obviously, softs. So they'll be past their best. I notice a lot of drivers do like to use the car number 5. Obviously, would be maybe nice if we had maybe just a few different numbers, actually. Just an idea spring into mind for drivers just to use. Obviously, car number 5 is brilliant. Obviously, that was my favourite car number. Obviously, of Sebastian Vettel, who used that car number 5. And in fact, car number 5 will not be available until, I believe, the end of next year. Because obviously, pretty sure rule states, in real life at least, you can't use car number 5 on the car until 2025. 2 years after another driver has basically not used it. So pretty much that's why we couldn't see the number 4, pretty sure it was JB, Jenson Button, use car, Lando Norris used car number 4 until 2019 when he joined the grid effectively. So yeah, or 2018, I can't remember what year. I think it was 2018 or 2019. But Iron Kid does slightly improve on his lap time there. And what is Begduri going to do? He goes provisionally 3rd place. So that's not really ideal for our Begduri. Let's see what Robbo is doing. In fact, Dan is ahead, so we'll give him the privilege of obviously seeing his lap first, as he will come across the line very, very shortly. And through the final couple corners he goes. And in fact, it's going to be provisional pole for Dan. So Dan having an excellent lap, and Robbo gets off the bottom of the timing sheets, of course, and goes into then P9. So not a bad effort from him either. But yeah, Arbeigduri probably the weakest of the 3 laps there well, Robbo is the weakest of 3 laps there, but Arbeigduri out of the top 4, the weakest of all the laps there ultimately, about a 10th down on that pole. And considering his time was done later, therefore I'd probably consider that a little bit extra weak, because, you know, ultimately he should be probably the same area as Dan at this stage. And actually, probably Appledorn is probably the one with the advantage right now, and same with Charlie Harris, because their lap times, well, they will get those quicker as they do their second and third runs. So, Brian, the other Red Bull driver, he's on a lap here. Currently on a 27.7 for today's qualifying, and that was his first run, of course. So this will be his second run, and obviously we'll be trying to improve. Definitely looks maybe like a controller player here with O'Brien, because he is, well, the car is just switching around, obviously, a lot of places. Ideally, probably that's costing him a bit of lap time and goes off the track. Fortunate not to invalidate, and in fact decides to abort that lap, so that lap will be no good. Now, Top Car Vlogger crosses the line and goes up into 7th. Stewart has started a lap, so has Neil, but he isn't improving out there. Charlie Harris has invalidated. Appledorn's just ultimately gone through the first corner, so he's also started a lap. So Neil's back into the pits, obviously obviously not unexpectedly, but he's back into the pits as he invalidated on his lap time, so he'll be obviously waiting till that final probably 2 or 3 minutes of qualifying now, where the track will ramp up. Obviously, as the track gets more old or more rubbered in, obviously the track will start to ramp up in terms of a pace, as we're seeing drivers setting purple sectors out there now and going even quicker than their first run. So let's see what Stewart can do. Obviously, he would have been pretty pleased with the last race. It really helps him out in the championship. A bit of an unexpected turn, because he was P4, not saying he weren't in the hunt, and goes on to provisional pole. So that's a really good lap time by his sort of standards then there. Appledorn has invalidated, so let's see what Dan's doing. Dan is actually improving here by 72 thousandths, at least for the first sector. So through the middle sector, is it going to still be going south of that lap time delta? And it is indeed. So is improving still by 1,000. So 72 thousandths and 1,000th up. So about 73 thousandths overall up on his lap time. Does he abort? He is going to abort. So that will be him back into the pits. So, right, let's see what Mafasa's doing. Mafasa isn't improving. How about a Shade? Is he going to improve by any means then, as he'll be on a lap? Obviously, Shade had a decent result too last time out, from what I recollect. So, FC Esh and Shade is on a lap then, and through then Maggots, Beckett's. Then we'll have maybe a little bit of a tow from the car head. Might be just picking up a little bit of a slipstream, and in fact he's improving by 4 tenths. So this is actually one of probably his better laps overall that I've seen. Can he still make further strides forward in this final sector of the lap and maybe bump himself up the order? This lap time would currently probably see him jump up into 12th ahead of Morgan. So let's have a look where it comes as he crosses the line, and it is up into 12th, just behind Mafasa. That's a really competitive lap from Shade. And as I say, one of these better laps, certainly I've witnessed, because overall, like, you know, Shade as a driver, you know, is probably one of the drivers who you expect in the lower part of the field, and to be up there in 12th, that is a really top effort by him. So yeah, really good to see him improving race by race as well. That's what I'd have to positively say about that. That's really shown good turn of speed. Now, how about Zonnevild? Is Zonnevild doing anything special? And Zonnevild is actually doing something special, up by half a second. So this will certainly see him get into the mix here. Obviously, this will be his final run, so whatever lap time he probably does now, that will set his place on the grid then. So through the final couple of corners, and is this going to see him jump up the order then as he'll cross the line now and goes into P5. So P5 for Zonnevild on a 26.2, so he puts him 6 thousandths ahead of Arbeiduri, who's currently on an outlap. Shade into the pit. Ryan is actually improving also, the other Red Bull, and Appledorm's teammate then here. So obviously Red Bull might be obviously top of drivers, but certainly constructors, certainly they've got ground to make up on Alfa Romeo, who currently sit top, and Stewart and Shade doing a really good job at the moment for Alfa Romeo. Has to be said, very consistent. And through the final couple of corners, Brian comes, unfortunately does not make any improvement forward, and that will then see him remain in P15, and in fact drops down a position now due to a further car of Elliott going quicker, and he's obviously done a 26.8, so that's a decent time by him and moves him into the top 8 now. So right, Zonnevild obviously we know isn't doing a lap, so next up then to come across the line is Arbeiduri, one of your championship protagonists. Obviously did lose the championship, as I've mentioned, last time out in Spain, Catalonia, and invalidates then here. So does still have time to go again, but that's not going to be any help, especially depending on the fuel target he's got and how much he's put onto his car. So P6 potentially for the Aston Martin man of Arbeiduri then here in qualifying, which really wouldn't be any help. And is Neil going to improve? Well, we're about to find out if Neil can improve, as we're getting into the dying end stages of this qualifying now. Stewart remains in the pits, so he's happy and maybe confident. Is he a bit overconfident with that 125.9? We're soon going to find out, but everyone else is obviously on an outlap now, and Neil back in. So Neil has aborted and he's given up on his lap then here. So Arbeiduri will go again then. Robbo is a 10th up to the good, so he's doing pretty decent, and Morgan is also about 74 thousandths up, so we are seeing drivers in the low end of the field improve that time. Zonnevild's retired, I believe. That is that on the track or out, or was that in the pits? Not entirely sure where that was. So yep, we'll have to wait and see what he can do. So let's go back to Robbo, who's in the middle sector now, and 4 tenths up. So this certainly is a decent lap coming together for the AlphaTauri man. Obviously, currently 4 tenths would probably put him ahead of Elliott. However, if he can find even more time in this final part of the lap, final sector, is a bit short of the final sector, but still some critical corners. And as it will come across the line, goes ahead of Elliott into P8 then. So Morgan, I believe, was next across the line. And here comes Morgan and moves himself up into 9th, ahead of Elliott. So, right, where are we with the top 3, or top 4? So, Dandan's coming into Luffield, then, or exiting Luffield. Appledorm is in Luffield now, and Charlie Harris rounding the final couple corners. So, Charlie Harris up by about 10th in the middle. So, let's see what this lap time is going to be. Is it going to be provisional pole? Nope, misses out on provisional pole. But a very good effort to get onto the front row for the Ferrari driver. So, next up is going to be Dandan. Then here in the McLaren. The Ferrari, or other Ferrari, gets out of the way very nicely. And right now, Dandan is on an absolute flying lap. 2 tenths up on his previous best. So this probably puts him in the mix for pole position here as he will round the final couple of corners. Is this going to put him onto the front row or onto pole? And it's only pole, misses out on pole by 0.02 of a second. Appledorm's next to come across the line. Where is he going to go? He also misses out, but not just on pole, but misses out entirely on a improvement, and he will start then P4. So not an ideal starting position for our championship leader, but Stewart then remains on pole by 0.02 of a second. Then here in Silverstone, and Morgan crosses the line. He's the final driver to complete a lap then here, and that then sees Morgan remain P10. And there we go. Your pole position man, Stewart, who's chosen to remain in the pits. Not sure if that was a tactical choice, whether he's saving a set of the tyres, probably, potentially, but nonetheless, that is him taking pole then for today, and that's really good to see, because ultimately it puts pressure now going into this race on Appledorm to deliver a result if he doesn't want his championship lead closed down here, because yeah, Stewart is really doing a top job, and yeah, actually starting to think he could become the champion this season. Ultimately, he's showing really strong pace, really strong results, and yeah, nonetheless, Stewart is then on poles. Dan Dunn in P2, Charlie Harris P3, and then Appledorm P4. Then Zonneveld P5, not a great day for Arbeiduri in P6 then at the moment. Neil is P7, Top Car Flogger 8th, Robbo 9th, Morgan 10th, Elliott 11th, Ironkid 12th, Mufasa in 13th, Shade in 14th, Lucky Egg 15th, Brian 16th, Vuncy in 17th, Lange in 18th, I think it was, and then I'll just go through the rest of the grid on stream. So, just going to go through the rest of the grid, as I say, on the stream, for the drivers that I missed. So, it was Vuncy in 17th, then it was Lange in 18th, and then after Lange, it was Pira, and then obviously Oscar. So, yeah. Man's Not Bob, clearly rooting for Appledorm. So, I thought you're not meant to have favourites, Man's Not Bob. Surely that's admin biased here. Or biased admins. Only joking. But here we go then. So, we are about to go racing in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom for the Silverstone Grand Prix, and it's go, go, go then for the 20 racers and drivers. Obviously, we have got Oscar. He's one to watch, given he's, I think, a tier 3 driver, so I expect him to come through the field pretty sharply today, unless he gets into a few incidents. But a very good start by then your race leader here of Stewart, Dandan and Charlie Harris side by side through then, I believe that's Village, and into Luffield we go. Still both side by side, both also starting on the hards, as you can visually see. Both of them got that white compound of tyre on, and both of them into the barrier, and that's Dandan out of the race, Charlie Harris down the order, and that is absolute catastrophe for Dandan, especially now in the championship, because, well, he will be pretty much, after this race, almost 40 points behind. You would surely have to say, being 40 points behind, I don't want to say it's championship over for him, but yeah, that was a nasty incident, and not really sure what or who was responsible for that. Looked like they were both having a brilliant bit of racing action between the two cars, obviously. And just looks like one of them tagged the other around into the barrier. Obviously, yeah, not ideal for Dan and his championship hopes. And also not ideal for McLaren either. So Stewart had a brilliant start. In fact, pulled out 3 seconds. Also, Al-Baghduri had a brilliant start. He's up from 6th, all the way up into now P2. So that's a great start from him. Appledorn not too bad. Obviously, one of the beneficiaries, obviously, of that incident. He's up into 3rd, so that's be okay for him. Obviously, don't expect anyone into pits besides, obviously, Harris at the back of the grid, and he's gone now for a set of the mediums, which, fair enough. Don't really blame him. Probably, well, can't get them to the end, but either way, due to the safety car, this will see him at least not lose out too much. And in fact, last time out in Spain, he was one of the drivers I personally would have said driver of the day, ultimately, having an amazing recovery race. You know, Appledorn, obviously, I think I gave my driver of the day vote to, if I remember rightly. Pretty sure it was Appledorn I said on stream. Not sure if I, you know, but yeah, on stream I'm pretty sure, personally, I thought Appledorn had the best drive out of them all last race due to the fact of his, obviously, of that recovery drive. But Charlie Harris probably would have been second best, so we know the job he can do, certainly from that position. Hello, Oscar. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. So obviously, safety car this early on, no one really benefits from obviously any sort of strategy. So yeah, probably ideally this helps out Al-Baghduri, as it'll just allow him to extend his stint in this race a little bit longer than maybe he could do otherwise, because, you know, with him being on softs, effectively those will die out quicker than the mediums, and therefore he will suffer. But with this safety car, does allow him to sort of breathe and not use up those softs for now, which therefore will allow him to just extend that stint, maybe by a lap or two, if he wants to do that strategically. So, safety car probably will be in at the end of this lap. And once it is in, we will go back to the racing green. So, safety car in this lap then, and Stewart will back the pack up. Obviously, he will be now the de facto safety car, effectively, and he can choose when to put his foot down once the safety car reaches the pit lane. Obviously, ideally, personally, I would probably, you know, try and catch them a little bit off guard. Maybe go early, maybe go late, and it looks like Stewart's gone early. So Stewart has gone now, and of course, with going a bit early, that means, you know, no overtaking is allowed until you reach the start-finish line, of course, and now that they can go racing once again and start overtaking Stewart if they want to, and that's obviously if they can overtake Stewart, So Stewart gets a pretty decent jump on Arbeiduri from then Appledorm, who's in P3. P4 is then Zonnevild. Then he's doing a pretty decent job there. Currently then behind, you are seeing more probably action a bit down the back of the field, and Vancy, who is the car probably dropping down the order, and we see Piera then losing the car a little bit, and these two are battling away, but whilst doing so, Charlie Harris was getting a little bit held up, but not held up anymore as he just picks these two off pretty neatly and pretty quickly then by his standards. So Morgan then we ride on board with, as we see Iron Kid and Elliot were having a little bit of a go at it side by side through cops, but in the end Elliot comes out the worst of two, and we've got a spinner of then Appledorm who is around, and that's going to see Appledorm lose out huge position wise, and this is brilliant news for Stewart, who currently could elevate himself up into the championship lead at this rate if his championship rivals keep dropping like flies. Literally, that's how they're all going at the moment. The only championship rival he's got out front is probably Arbeiduri, but Arbeiduri is probably on a, well, inferior strategy overall. So Oscar making up the position then on Shade, who has then lost that position, and next up then, well, trying to find the gap. Gaps aren't really that good around here, to be fair. We use the broadcast mode now just to get a bit more off-board shots, or off-board camera. So where is all the action? No one's really going side by side really at the moment with each other, which is a bit of a shame, but we are now seeing Lucky Egg try to make a move there on Shade, as Charlie Harris then makes up position on Lange, and he will be delighted to get past another car. So obviously recovery race is full swing for him. Obviously did start P3, now is up into P14, or down in P14. So Lucky Egg gets past Shade, and that'll be in position for 12th. Obviously every position scores points, just so you know. So it don't really matter whether you're first, you're 10th, or you're 19th, you will score at least a couple of points, or a point, which therefore does well, be some sort of reward for your efforts, which is good, I think, ultimately. So, right, closest battle we've got right now on the track is probably between Robbo and Zonnevild for the top three. We do have a bit of a 5-car battle going on behind Neil at the moment. He's sort of in a, well, leading a DRS train at the moment with about 6 cars behind him, stretching all the way down to 11th. So Neil probably feeling the pressure at the moment, and ultimately, well, Top Car Flogger could be going past on this lap. He is going to go past on this lap. In the background, Appledorm makes up a positional gain on then Iron Kid, and Robbo is now overtaking round the outside into Club corner, and that is a brilliant move by Robbo to get up onto the podium, and that sees him now into the top 3. And we're now also starting to see then Stewart gain on Begduri, who is going to be probably sooner rather than later back down into second, as you can now start to see those soft tyres fade out in the race, and therefore Stewart is there, well, becoming the stronger car of the two. In case you're not really know what the softs or mediums and hards are, basically 3 different compounds. Around here, probably about, I think they probably use C3, C2 and C1s, so be the hardest range of the Pirelli compounds, and effectively just means, you know, the tyres are a step softer, therefore less tyre pressure, I think, whatever, less grip. It's all to do with the grip, and there we go. Stewart simply makes the DRS pass around the outside into Stowe, gets it done, and that's Stewart back up into the race lead and potentially championship lead coming his way. Then here on lap 7 of 57. 57? 26. The black and white box means penalty. So if you've got a black and white box, so Mufasa, he's got a penalty. So effectively, he's got 3 seconds. So that time will be added to his race at the end of the race. Effectively, yeah. Effectively, you don't want the penalties. If you get a penalty, you're only hurting yourself. So right now, if this race was to end just now, Mufasa would drop down from 15th into 16th right now. So that wouldn't be ideal for his race. So I'm going to go to the leader, what you call it, interval, because I prefer the leader interval. Just gives you the idea of the field spread. So right now, Stewart doing a good job at holding off Arbejduri, as this is the lead, fight for the lead at the moment. Obviously, Arbejduri trying to hold on to the rear, probably of then Stewart. Probably ideal for him, probably not to overtake Stewart here and benefit from the DRS toe and try and go as far on those softs as well possible. Obviously, those softs probably will start to drop off around lap. Well, they've already probably started to drop off, but they'll probably start to drop off even more around lap 10. So if he can get to lap 13 or maybe lap 12 on them, then that would be a very decent effort. And Brian has spun in the final sector, so I think he's still going, just a moment for him there. So that sees him pretty much drop out of contention at the moment. So Charlie Harris still finding his way through. Next up for him is Elliott, and here he has a look into Luffield, and in the end doesn't go for the move there, but goes for a wider line through Luffield, so trying to look for the better exit potentially. Does have a lap younger tyres, so therefore he might just have a bit better pace towards the end of the stint compared to the drivers ahead of him. Obviously, he probably disappointed with the start of his race, so doesn't want another incident again, because that wouldn't be good for him, but looks like he's going to make up position here on then Elliott and going to overtake the Aston Martin, and that then sees Charlie Harris up into 11th as Vancy has picked up the 3-second penalty for multiple track warnings. So that sees obviously him now with 3 seconds added to his time. Currently down in 17th though at the moment, so not really going to impact him too much if things were to remain the way they are. Obviously does have a big gap back to Brian and does have a bit of a gap also ahead of him to Lange to make up, and is on those softs like Begduri, who obviously is fighting with Stewart for the race lead. Now, I would have expected Begduri to kind of drop off a little bit more here, but he's doing very, very well to hold on to the back of Stewart. Obviously, probably is using that DRS to great effect, and ultimately, it is working for him so far because, well, he's keeping within that second range, obviously, of the Alfa Romeo driver, and obviously through being in that second range, he's therefore not really losing much time to the car behind, of Robbo, as we see Piera at the back there, spin in the Mercedes. Zonnewild then overtakes as Lange now gets a 3-second too, so they're all pretty much getting penalties as they all come in pretty much one by one. Silverstone, not necessarily the easiest track to negotiate when it comes to track limits, due to the fact that it's a very high speed circuit, therefore with the likes of Cops, with the likes of Stowe, the exit of Stowe in particular, makes it very easy places to go wide and run a bit too wide, and therefore you'll be getting track limit warnings as Zonnewild now up into the top 3 then for this race. So Zonnewild back onto the podium as Top Car Vlogger going to be the next driver to have a look at the back of the AlphaTauri driver of Robbo, and Top Car Vlogger almost pushing Robbo through the corner then here and through Luffield. The Mercedes of Neil having a wider line, therefore looking for that better exit, and does look like he's got maybe a little bit of a better exit, but into Copse then corner we go through Copse, and by the looks of it this time Robbo looking a little bit better in terms of the exit, but still he's got a huge amount of pressure behind him with basically 5 cars all breathing down his neck right now, one by one. Here comes then Top Car Vlogger for then P4, and that's Williams now up into 3rd and 4th then for this race. So the 2 Williams drivers are now in a brilliant position championship constructors wise. Obviously the last Williams 1-2 I believe was Lewis and I think it was Zonnewild or someone. I can't remember who his teammate was, but I definitely remember Lewis. It was Mexico last season. Brilliant to see that Williams 1-2 here in ERL, of course. So Neil having a go now at Robbo, but he's coming under a bit of pressure from Apeldoorn, your championship leader. But Robbo now is going to have a look to the inside, properly pushing him to the inside, but Apeldoorn on the outside goes around the outside of both of them, and that sees then Apeldoorn then up into the top 5, and that will be a delightful move for him then, as now Oscar going to be the next one to try and get through Robbo. Robbo literally looking like a wounded driver. I would suspect Robbo has got some sort of damage on his car at the moment due to how badly he's suffering out there. This surely cannot just be tyre wear related, because ultimately he's dropping, well, so quickly off the pace that he just really cannot live with anyone else, and he's in. And in fact, I'm going to follow him in. So Top Car Vlogger 5 seconds pretty much. Robbo also getting 5 seconds, and Robbo has retired from the session. Now I do wonder what was wrong with Robbo's car. I do hope that's not a unnecessary retirement, because if it was just front wing damage, I mean, you can get your front wing replaced ultimately. So got 3 going side by side. In the end, Lucky Egg chooses to back out there, which fair enough. Morgan benefited a little bit from those stops, and Elliott also benefits. But there goes Morgan on the inside into Luffield. Gives the Aston Martin driver plenty of room, but in the end doesn't gain the position off Elliott. And Elliott then through Copse is going to remain ahead. Morgan drifts a little bit out wide there, probably too far out wide, so he might have got a warning. But sometimes if you do drift out wide, obviously on this game like that, you will not pick up warnings for whatever reason, even though you technically should. Mufasa with another 3-second penalty, so got quite a number of penalties right now as Zonnevild comes in. So he will therefore make his stop. So the only drivers yet to make a stop are, of course, Stewart and Appledorm, plus obviously Lucky Egg, Shade. Iron Kid's now in, so he's the next one to make a stop. But obviously you've got Morgan, Elliott, Charlie Harris. Those drivers are still yet to make a stop. To be fair, Charlie Harris doesn't need to make a stop, actually, because he can go to the end on those sets of tyres, whereas everyone else must make a stop. And the reason why I say he can go to the end on them set of tyres, he's obviously done the hard stint, so technically he's already made his one compulsory stop, and therefore he doesn't need to make another if he chooses not to make another. However, if he did do that strategy, I'm not entirely sure that would benefit him in any way, shape or form. So I do expect to see Charlie Harris in probably in the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 laps here. Depends how long the leaders choose to go, because the leaders may choose to go a lot longer, and ultimately probably aren't going to necessarily respond at the first time of asking, as we're seeing here from Stewart continuing on, and obviously therefore he is going to have the offset compared to Arbejduri. Now Arbejduri probably will come back out into the race lead here by a bit of a distance, but do not let that fool you, because ultimately Stewart will have the fresher compound of tyre towards the end of this race, and will have the less wear on his tyre, and therefore will be the faster of the drivers. Now Charlie Harris in for a set of mediums, so he's opted to go for the mediums again, not going any further on that other set of mediums, so he's decided enough's enough, and obviously will drop back down in the order due to the fact he had to make his stop. So it's a question of where does he come back out, and he'll come back out behind his teammate, and by the looks of it, he'll also come back out behind Lange in P13, so back down to 13th for him, but obviously there's still plenty of drivers still yet to make a stop, so therefore ultimately I'd say he's probably running a net P8 or P7 at the moment for himself, which wouldn't be too bad for Ferrari, because his teammate's probably running also in a similar territory, so I expect also his teammate to effectively come out probably P6, P7, something like this. So yeah, good day for Ferrari at the moment, until I've said that, because Ferrari's now just picked up penalty with Iron Kid, as they were running, well, pretty much without the penalty at the moment, and now they've got a 3 second, so Iron Kid certainly now has to make sure no other car is within 3 seconds. Obviously his teammate, he will probably let through if his teammate does catch him. I wouldn't suspect too much resistance there. And in then comes your race leader, Stewart. Now, interestingly, gone for the softs. Obviously does have about 11 laps to do on those tyres, but he has opted to go for a set of the softer compound. That is certainly doable, certainly now probably, but I just think surely maybe if you were going to do that, surely you should have maybe waited a little bit longer to give yourself a bit more of an offset, maybe just another lap like what Appledorm and Morgan are doing. Surely that would have been a bit more better, I think, overall, because I suspect Appledorm will come in this lap. He'll respond to Stewart. Was obviously 7 seconds behind Stewart, so yeah, I do expect Appledorm in at the end of this lap here, and he'll probably go softs too. And is Appledorm in? I think he is. Yep, he is. So there we go. Appledorm in. Morgan, I presume, will also follow suit. So Arbejduri will become your new race leader then here. And therefore, as he becomes your new race leader, Appledorn will probably come out, might come out behind Oscar here. We're going to have to see where he comes out. So Oscar is coming down the start-finish straight now. Here then is Appledorn. He's about to exit the pits, and yep, he's behind Oscar. In fact, he's also behind Charlie Harris. And is he going to be jumped by Neil too? Nope. In the end, comes out ahead of Neil, but as I said, P6 and P7 for Ferrari drivers, so very good there. But yeah, for obviously Appledorn comes out behind then the likes of Charlie, the likes of Iron Kid, and also Oscar, and obviously probably can get back up into the top 4, I would reckon, on that strategy, but certainly got his work cut out and got a lot of cars to overtake. Obviously will be on the faster tyre, but again, you know, yeah, this I don't necessarily know was the right strategy by him or for him. We'll have to wait and see how much he'll benefit from those softs. Certainly the driver that is benefiting from those softs is now Stewart, who is now closing that gap down pretty rigorously here, and he's now got that gap down to 1.3, and that's pretty much dropping all the time. Now, will we see the two Williams switch position? Right now, Top Car Vlogger probably does look like the quicker of the two at the moment between these two Williams drivers. Obviously, if they are in a party chat together, there is potential for them to communicate. That would be perfectly legitimate. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure if, you know, they're just working together or if they will let the other through. But right now, it does look like Zonnevild and Top Car Vlogger pretty evenly match. Obviously, Top Car Vlogger does have a penalty, so could it be a bit wiser for Zonnevild to let his teammate through, and therefore try to maybe, in fact, it might be more than 3 seconds. How many seconds is it? Okay, it's 8. Okay, forget what I've just said, because, yeah, with 8 seconds, that's really going to hurt his race. In fact, that would drop him all the way down into probably 9th. So, yeah, that would pretty much properly ruin his race overall. So, go back to our race leaders as these two are getting closer together. So, Zonnevild, well, right now, Top Car Vlogger probably would want to be the rear gunner to basically Zonnevild there to try and help his teammate score that podium. So, this is pretty much roles reverse, but not just roles reverse, it's pretty much now, well, this should be a very easy pass for the race lead. So, Stewart sends his car to the outside, so he's sort of making Arbegduri go defensive then here, and I suspect with the DRS should be able to get past. Arbegduri does move to the inside, so defending that inside line. Stewart goes for the outside, but doesn't go for it. Intriguingly, deciding to, well, remain behind then Arbegduri, not going for it at the first time of asking, and did not go for that outside pass, but still, he's still got a second DRS opportunity, and I imagine down this next DRS straight, that's where he's probably going to aim to make the pass. You can hear how much he's lifting off here, and it is an awful lot right now. He's pretty much half of the time for that half a lap lifting off, and he's not lifting off anymore because he's actually going for the overtake, and with that DRS gets the job done. And as I said, simple pass. In the end, probably too simple, because he could just toy with the Aston Martin driver and sort of just let the Aston Martin driver do what he wanted to do. But yeah, sort of, yeah, for Stewart, he chose where he wanted to pass Arbegduri rather than, you know, trying to fight for it. You know, it was a pretty simple pass there. So very nice to see. No, well, where there was a bit of risk, didn't really take that risk. So, focused on bringing the car home. Clearly, Stewart is, and bringing the car home in a very competitive position. Appledorn has got past Iron Kid, so that'll help him out a little bit, but isn't really making any sort of inroads on Charlie Harris. He's got about a 2-second gap to Charlie Harris at the moment. Also, Oscar hasn't been as much of a threat as I would have thought in this race, but he's still got a good chance at getting a podium here. So, as I said, Top Car Vlogger is going to have to play the ultimate team game, and I think in the end, Top Car Vlogger might just get past here straight away, and if he does, I think Oscar probably looking very handy indeed at getting a podium. So, personally, if I was Top Car Vlogger, I would be trying to block Oscar's way as much as possible and try to hold him up as much as possible for the teammate. It would have been probably wise, as I said, if those two Williams drivers were communicating, to tell Top Car Vlogger just to back off into Oscar and effectively try to, I'm not saying play dirty, but just to play a bit of a team game. And, you know, that is what it's about. It's a team event, really. So, as much as it's individual, and there is individual drivers championship on the line, but it's also a team event, and it's really about which team can work the best. And really this, through not holding Oscar up, effectively Zonneveld has a lot of work to do to try and hold on to that final podium spot. So, Oscar, right now, chasing down that third place, and is now within the DRS again. So, can he maybe make the pass into Stowe? The answer to that is no, but obviously, still plenty more opportunities for Oscar to find a way through, and he's just going to go round the outside into the final corner, and there we go, he's up into third. But the DRS is very shortly coming for Zonneveld, so Zonneveld, if he can keep within a decent distance, that would see him potentially have a chance to get back pass. So he is within that DRS, but I don't think he's close enough to make it then here. And that probably should see then Oscar probably safely on the podium, because I imagine and suspect that Oscar will pull out a lead now and will extend that gap, but actually Zonneveld doing okay. He's still keeping Oscar within his sights, but he does have a bit of pressure coming from Charlie Harris. So here comes Charlie, who's also got DRS, and here goes Charlie on then Zonneveld and makes a move. Has he also tried to make a move on Oscar there? The answer to that is no, but Charlie Harris now up into fourth. And as I said, had a brilliant recovery drive last time out, having a brilliant recovery drive today as well. So this is going to be a really good recovery if he can get the podium. Obviously, I'm not going to speculate about that lap 1 incident between himself and Dan, because obviously Dan, it may just get put down as a racing incident, which will have to be assessed by the stewards, if it does get reported, of course, to the stewards, which I suspect it might, because obviously, yeah, that has potentially ruined a driver's race, but nonetheless, this is a great recovery if Charlie can get up onto the podium here. and ahead of Oscar. And whilst this is all going on, I'm noticing that actually Arbeck isn't really letting go again of Stewart. Stewart is still managing, well, Arbeck is still managing to hold on to the back of Stewart here, and we are entering the final few laps, so I do hope, or I would like to kind of hope, that Stewart does have something left in the tank and left in those tyres, and we're not seeing a bit of a bad strategy in a sense. Maybe Arbeck has masterminded a great strategy here to win this race with 2 laps to go. So we've got actually a really exciting climax, or end to this race, because, well, effectively you got the fight for third and the fight for first, all currently really within a couple of tenths of each other at the moment. So yeah, not really sure who is going to win this race into the final 3 laps we're now on. Also, Appledorn in 7th. He will be promoted up into 6th, but for him, obviously, I'm sure he would have liked a bit more. Maybe if he pushes on, he could still try to get P5 if he really goes for it, but yeah, he's certainly going to have to go like the hammers of hell now if he really wants to take that position away from Zonneville to 4th, 5th. But then you never know, penalties still can come into play. Obviously, we know Top Car Flogger, he's going to drop down the order, probably down into 9th. And here goes then Charlie Harris up onto the podium, and that is Charlie Harris then into 3rd. So, has Charlie Harris potentially made a podium winning move? And in fact, they're rapidly also gaining on this race lead as well. So 2 laps to go. So pretty much about 6 miles left of racing. Stewart leads from Arbeck, but Arbeck is not falling away. And in fact, Arbeck is looking closer and closer. And this is probably the closest he's been to Stewart for quite some time. So, can Arbeck get past, then, Stewart for what would be the race win? And potentially, I'm not really too sure what the points would be after this, but potentially to deny Stewart of going to the top of the championship standings. Because currently, right now, Stewart is on 151 points, 11 points behind, obviously, the championship leader, Appledorn, who's down in 7th, who will finish 6th in this race then here. So that's why I think Stewart might go to the championship standings lead, but with 1 lap to go, Arbeck has taken the lead of the Grand Prix, and he is now your race leader going on to the final lap. Now, is that a mistake, or is that, well, the correct thing to do? Because obviously doing it on the last lap might have been better for Arbeck, depending on the situation with Stewart. Because maybe those tyres aren't going off, and maybe Stewart was just, holding a little bit back. But does actually seem on this lap, Stewart isn't really making any sort of inroads, and Arbeck is certainly weaving down the straight a little bit, moves to the left, then back to the right, trying to break the toe, trying to take away any sort of slipstream he's giving the Alfa Romeo driver behind of Stewart. So we are now in literally half a lap to go territory, and Arbeck is still your race leader from Stewart. But this is now where Stewart has to make the gains. If he doesn't make any gains through here, then surely Arbeck is going to be your race winner. And in fact, Arbeck is going to be your race winner now, because Stewart has picked up a 3-second penalty. So actually, for Stewart, it's more, does he finish on a podium instead now, all of a sudden? So, Oscar has made up the position on then Charlie for that final podium spot, and Arbejduri is going to round the final couple corners to win and bounce back from his Spain disappointment. It's going to be Stewart in P2, then it's going to be Charlie Harris onto the podium, is it? No, sorry, it's going to be Oscar then, who from last takes the final podium spot. Charlie Harris in P4. Zonnefield then crosses the line in P5. Appledorn finishes P6, as I said. Iron Kid P7. Neil P8. Top Car Flogger P9. Morgan in 10th. Then Elliott in 11th. Shade will round the final corner now to take home P12. Still a great day for us, for Alfa Romeo. He'll be promoted up into 11th, so that's a good result for him. Elliott, obviously, lots of penalties in there. Lucky Egg comes home in 13th. 14th is Mafasa crossing the line now. Vancy is going to come home in then P15. Brian next one to cross the line in P16. And Lange is going to cross the line in P17 as your final finisher today. So, there we go. The Aston Martin driver of Arbejduri climbs back onto the top step after his disappointing race, obviously, in Spain. Could have been 2 wins in a row for the Aston Martin driver. However, of course, it's not. But he'll still be very pleased, I imagine, and suspect to bounce back and really reignite his championship fight and reignites that to try and climb back to the top of the driver's standings, of course. So I'll go through the positions if I can. However, I might not have time due to the fact the sessions is apparently ending in 11 seconds. So we'll soon see. If we can, we can. Usually we can. Just for whatever day, for whatever reason today, it's taken a bit of a while to load up, but we'll soon see. If not, it'll probably return me back to the lobby. Yep. And there we go. So I couldn't go through the full standings. I kind of already did anyway, through, telling you which order they all cross the line in. But, yep. Once again, obviously, in terms of my driver of the day, I think I'm going to give it to Arbejduri because not a great qualifying, but had a brilliant race. In the end, to make that strategy work as well, weren't the most easiest strategy to go make work, but he did make it work, and that's what counts in the end. So Arbejduri, personally for me, is my commentator driver of the day. And probably the next, probably would give it to Oscar, who finished obviously P3 from 20th, obviously. But I would have probably expected Oscar to come through the field more, to be fair. But that's just me, personally. But nonetheless, good results then for them too. Also, Charlie Harris, a good recovery race to get 4th. Obviously, whether that 4th stands and whether or not he gets a penalty, who knows. But we'll find out next week anyway. And yeah, until then, I hope you've enjoyed that race today. Obviously, be back tomorrow for round 8 again for Tier 2, which, isn't quite as close in terms of the championship standings, being dominated by one man and one man only of Vigo. However, Still, we do see some brilliant cracking racing in Tier 2, so do not miss it for what it's worth. And until tomorrow, see you all then. Please subscribe, like, and share the video. Obviously, please subscribe to ERL, that would be appreciated. And obviously, get them to the 100th and 20th subscriber. So, see you all next time, or see you tomorrow for ERL Tier 2 Silverstone.